Between the hills, the stars, the sky, the river so clear, river so clear.
Let us join in a spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer as we deepen into our service and share our opening words for this morning. This reading comes from Pat Urbai Lichty and is entitled, "We Will Be Renewed." We come together with our tired minds and bodies, with our confusion and questions, our uncertainties and our fears. We come together with our hopes, with our past and our ideas, our passion and our faith. We come together bringing all of who we are, trusting that in gathering we will be renewed and that together we can create the world we long for. We join Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists all over the world in lighting our chalice. Would Mary Wilson please come up to light the chalice, which is a symbol of the spark of life in each of us. If you are on Zoom and have your chalice with you, I invite you to turn on your video to share while we light them. We are in good company. Our chalice lighting words are "Why We're Here" by Eric Walker Wickstrom. Here, today, in this place and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves in this world. May this chalice we light our way. I would like to now introduce Liz Anderson, who will moderate our panel this morning, a panel of UU members who are working on issues at the 2023 legislative sessions.
So today we're going to have three panelists. Don Morrison, who is, because he's retired, he's working for North Dakota Native Vote, working on Indigenous rights and speaking in the legislature on those issues. We have Dr. Gabriela Balf, who has been an absolute leader on trans and gay rights and fighting for the rights of those who are affected and those of us who love those who are directly affected. And Christine Kujuwa, who is executive director of our public library, who has been fighting for, against, I should say, censorship, the two censorship bills that have come through. And I stopped by one time and had a quick chat with her. I'd missed her, she hasn't been around. And she said, yeah, I'm ready to go to jail rather than censor. And I'm like, I will visit you or be next there with you. This is causing ordinary people to do extraordinary things, and not all of us have the time, but we all have the desire, and I'm super, super grateful for the work that these people and others in the room who have done lots in the legislature to help keep the state a little bit more welcoming.
This session, I am, as Liz said, I'm working on with North Dakota Native Vote on issues at the legislature and as a legislative coordinator. But I'm also going to speak this morning, not necessarily as with Native Vote. I'm going to cover those issues, but there's all sorts of issues that matter to you. So I'm going to take a broad approach this morning.
As Liz said, I'm Christine, library director down the street. I am a member of the North Dakota Library Association, and just kind of threw myself into the position of taking action on the bills that are affecting public libraries. It started with one bill, and then it turned into three, and now it's back down to two, and neither of them is very good. And we're just continuing to do anything that we can think of to try to sway the votes of the legislators so they don't go through, or what we'll do if they do go through.
I'm Gabriela Balf. I'm a mother to many, trying to mother many people with the various results. I used to be an internist, now I'm a psychiatrist and spokesperson for my society because others don't have the time. I have chronic conditions that are preventing me from working full time, so I can take time and go and speak and then crash home and think it through. I have this process. I have a funny accent, so people tend to listen intently to me when I speak. And I'm very willing to humiliate myself, make a fool of myself, just bring in points again and again.
Your jobs feel very, I know there's an intense effect for each of you, but how does it feel to be working in this legislature? And how do you, what do you draw on that keeps you going back? Because it's an uphill climb.
Well, there's a lot of that. Deep breaths. I did compare it to some other legislative sessions quickly. My first legislative session was in 1977 when the North Dakota House of Representatives was 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans. It's probably the stark opposite of what is going on today. People, no matter where they agreed or disagreed, what party, they socialize together, talk to each other, work together, solve problems. To get that on one of the coal taxes, you had to work really, really hard to get one of those party members in the House to switch sides. And that's how the coal conversion tax was passed. Fast forward to today, it feels like an assault on our very fundamentals of our country and our state. And there is and it's not, you can never say all or every person or everything, but broad strokes. It feels this time where there is a very powerful, wide group of folks in that legislature who really have given up on America. And it really is frustrating, and it's sad to see, and it's at the same time, and I will talk more about some of this in details, is that I'm meeting new people, and there's the spirit is not dying either. So there's that. It's meeting new, it's working with others that really keeps me going.
I would say the last several sessions, I've always helped out with through the North Dakota Library Association and our legislative committee that we have, but it's generally always been specific to rallying the troops to send in testimony or emails saying that the state library should get funding so that we can get our state funding for our budgets. And that's where it ended. And then this year happened. None of us were expecting any of this to happen. It took us all by complete surprise and continues to take us by surprise. Yeah, it's been, I think Liz used the word intense. That's what the word I would use for this year so far. What keeps me going is connecting with individuals and groups who, I don't know, not even necessarily think like me, but accept me for who I am and what my values are, and are willing to listen to me. And then also people who know that when they see me, they're not going to say anything at all because I'm doing that 14 hours a day since January, and I just want to watch a movie or something. So I appreciate that as well. And one of the places that lifts me back up is all of you in this church.
Ditto for that. Thank you.
Yes.
So as Don mentioned, when the team comes together and is exhilarating when things go well. And I learned a while ago that I'm not going to judge my competence on the outcomes. So just having the team do the best, our best, and whatever they will do with our best, that's not my responsibility. Is humiliating because I'm at a lot of limits. I didn't think I'm gonna see so many things that I cannot do anymore. I cannot do 2 all-nighters in a row. I cannot just get straight A's in my school because I'm a student too. And when my dad was sick and I had to leave for Romania, I was just, oh my God, I cannot just leave now when things are so heated. But the God universe was very sensible and didn't put any important bills the 2 weeks I was gone. So that was bitter because my husband was struggling at his job and we knew we will have to leave because basically they destroyed his program, and there's a lot of ethical issues about that. And I don't like to lie to anyone. On the other hand, I'm resolved that I'll continue working at least 1 day a week for my North Dakota kids. And some bills were personal. So maybe some of you know that I have a trans girl and she's out of state, she's fine, but it's just so many kids are not. And I don't take care of hundreds like the endocrinologists in Fargo, but those that I got to meet are very strong and they can fall apart big time too. So I feel very responsible for them. And another thing that was personal was an immigration bill at some point, I think it was 16 or something, when it was supposed to be a loan to workers coming to North Dakota. And there was a lot of testimony against it. So granted, there were money that were just loaned, were not given. And there were people speaking against that, and among them a pastor from Valley City who just said so many ugly things about immigrants that I'm not taking it personally. These are the 4 agreements I go by, but gosh, they hurt. How that pastor could talk about people like me. So
It's a beautiful blue bud. And no, the values that you are working from and for, what do you see? It's more than just censorship. How do you see these bills overlapping and what the effects of this legislature could be?
Well, I will speak as a public librarian because I'm speaking as my within my profession. But with public librarians in libraries statewide, throughout the country, throughout the world, our values are that we stand up for the freedom to read, free access to open information, and that no matter what the information is that someone is requesting, we do not judge based on what that subject matter might be, even if we personally find it offensive, because our job is to serve our communities and not push our own agendas. Personally, I will say that I follow the 7 principles of our church and the UU, and that's a big part of my life. And I'm also a member of the Peace Garden Sangha, although I haven't been able to attend lately due to my long days. But if you're not familiar, it's a small group of lay-led Buddhists in our community, and we meet every Monday night. And one of my values is trying to live into engaged Buddhism, which is a type of social justice, social action done from a place of compassion and nonviolence. Not always easy. Not the nonviolence part. Sorry, I have no problem with that. It's hard to be compassionate with people who are so blatantly rude and disrespectful to me and to my colleagues, but that is what I work toward. And that gives me strength because I know I'm trying to be a better person.
The values
Yes.
that I have,
Yeah, and just how they're, and do you see overlapping values in the bills that we're all facing?
yeah, I definitely see the same kinds of values in the opposition to what we're all doing. There's ties and there's similar values among us as well. I think some of the things that I see in the dominating presence of this session is a belief that the legislators there have the authority to do whatever they want to whomever they want. And it's taking away local control. They've done a whole bunch of that. Local governments can't do this, they can't do that, they can't prescribe their own ways of voting, ranked choice voting and approval voting, although I'm not terribly a fan of those things. They took it away from cities that have already have them. They've taken away a lot of local control. They've taken away things like, it's people who have power are the ones who win more. And even when it comes to wealthy farmers and ranchers in this state, and not so wealthy ones, family farms, they have when it's a clash between a well-funded, tax-supported pipeline of dubious nature on CO2, they are okay with having that pipeline take farmers and ranchers' land through eminent domain. They don't care about those people. They lose their freedom. And you have the values that give to those who have and not to those who don't. For example, huge millions of dollars of tax cuts to people who live in Oklahoma and Texas, and maybe 10, 15, $20 million tax cuts for them in a flat tax proposal. And at the same time, they cannot give money to fund school lunches. I mean, it's just that tax, the amount of money that would go to working families and parents of school-age kids would be more than most of us in this room pay in state income tax. So, it's like, it's the values of give to those who have, anybody else be responsible for your own self. And I think it goes totally against the idea of we're all in this together, that we can work together, we can self-govern, people who are working hard are part of the community as well. It's an attack on that we can do things, we have things that tie us together, values, community, that educated people is a really important thing. And so rather than giving money to private schools, we really need to make sure our public schools are doing well. And so it's almost, and then religion. I want one more example of just how the values that I think we have is that we come from different places and different opinions, and we listen to each other and we learn together, and then we grow, and then we can do things better because there's a diversity and inclusion. And there's a senator, his name is Senator Satram, Representative Satram from Jamestown. And I've seen him 3 times ask a question, and when the person is responding to his question, he turns his back on that person and talks to the legislator sitting next to him. And there were 2 senators, Senator Murdahl was one, who during a prayer by the First Presbyterian Church minister here, who said we should be nice to everybody, they said that was an agenda and being preached at, but politics. So they, in the Senate, turned their back on the First Presbyterian Church minister. So it's, you know, these are some of the things that are really confrontational. And so I really appreciate what Christine says. I'm trying to do the same thing. I'll just maintain and be present and keep moving forward on what's right.
But they love you and they want you to do well. That's why they're coming into your family to tell you what books to read or not. That's why they're coming into my uterus to tell me when I can have kids or not. Mm-hmm. They're coming into, so they want as many children and as many people as possible, and let's not feed them something nutritious because then the brain develops and is
well.
But hopefully what Mary said, that we're going to let go of this Christian dominance, right? The Catholic dominance, that we're better than, are better than anyone else. Maybe this will start some humility and some consideration that other people may want something different than this overwhelming love. This is what Senator Weston told me in one of these discussions after the heated trans bills, that, oh, I love all these kids and I want to protect them, and this is all good for them. And I said, well, I see two problems with that. Do you see what's the problem with you loving these kids so much with your big heart? Well, one, these bills are written with a language that can be used in nefarious ways, and you don't see it because you have such a big heart that you cannot imagine how bad people can think. And two, these kids keep telling you again and again and again, I don't need your love, I need your respect. Haven't heard from him since, but tomorrow, not tomorrow is a big day to hear from him. Yeah.
Could I just add something? Relating to values on a wider scale, what we're seeing in the library field is that it's not individuals necessarily who are who want us to ban particular titles. It's not particular legislators necessarily. It's
they read so much and they're coming with the list of what they read and they didn't like.
Yeah, they're national special interest groups who are, I hate to use the word, but infiltrating all of the states, and they're creating chapters within the states so that they have individuals in each state who can help them with their agendas, which is to have identical legislation in all of the states and to get it to pass so that everybody, all of the citizens across the country are subject to the same censorship. And I just want to give you, I'm a librarian, so I like statistics, so I'm going to throw a couple at you. A record 2,571 unique titles were targeted for censorship in 2021, and that's a 32% increase over the previous year, and that's more challenges than have ever been received across our country. But then during a poll, if you would ask voters what they actually think about censorship on an individual basis, 71% said they oppose efforts to remove books. So it's not the individuals, it's when these special interest groups come together and it's their values, and they're going throughout the country and pushing that on all of us.
Well, you know, I'm an immigrant, so I thought that as a representative of a district, you're doing whatever interests your people, and you come with that to propose a law, right? And you're telling me that there can be somebody in Arkansas or wherever who composed that, and I'm bringing it forth. So what could motivate somebody like this? I mean, there are 21-year-olds who are bringing devastating bills, and when you ask them, what is this all about? They cannot tell you. They'll babble something that's so universal, like they're asking you, so what's a female? It depends. Do you want a 5-hour answer? Do you want a 5-day answer? Do you want a 5-minute answer? So this is what they have in their head.
Yeah. It is, I think it's well taken that there's so much effort and connection nationally. And I think a lot of the polarization that's happened in this country has been because of national agendas really getting big. One of the things I wanted to add was, as per values, is we hear a lot about freedom. And certainly in the campaigns in the last decade, a lot about freedom. But one of the things that I think is really playing out in our legislature this year is completely different definitions of what freedom means. To many of, and particularly with these young male legislators from this region, who to them, they want freedom from people who are different than they are. They want to be free of that. They want to be able to have a community where people are just like them. They don't want to have to interact with other people. They don't want, they want to impose their will. They want to have guns and God in their definition. And that to them brings them freedom. And they have a gun so that they can impose their freedom. And to me, and I think many of us, is that, well, they also, what they want is parents' rights. Well, they are definitely going against my parents' rights. And I'm losing my parents' rights. Women are losing the control over their bodies and healthcare. Transgender people are losing their freedom to even exist and be counted, and on and on and on. And it's like what they're doing is they're taking away all of our freedoms and instituting, you have to agree with me. That's what freedom is. And it flies in the face of the idea of if you take somebody else's freedom away, yours can be next. And they don't even see that.
I was just jumping because this is what happens when I go all Freudian, you know. So in my second life as a psychiatrist, I learned a little bit of psychology, and as you know, a little bit of something can be very dangerous when you start applying it right, left, and center.
Ask them.
I ask them every day. So for instance, I was curious initially when I was asked, why do you think all these bills, 21 bills for Pete's sake, why? So as a person who tries to see good in people, I said, well, maybe they don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're well-meaning. I left that 6 months ago. So now if you go psychologically, which says pure heart, dirty mind, by the way. So dirty mind, full display here. Is a church. Okay, I'll keep it. So I was wondering what is driving this transphobic sentiment, and like scientific answer. Not just my speculations as a regular person, as a practicing psychiatrist. And I came across some explanations that have to do with these young people that is basically castration anxiety. They're wondering what the heck is gonna go with this language that says genitalia that's mutilated, or the kids are castrated, or these words are going right to the limbic system, and it's like, I'm in danger. You know, this is my survival is in big danger. So people like you, who are, with all due respect, wiser, older, can I say? Like me, you know? So you are not as likely to push bills that are taking care that your survival, your mating responsibilities are respected. 21-year-olds, they will push bills that will make sure that potential women mates are not disappearing into a pool of trans males, that you're not getting fooled with trans females, because that would be a big personal pride injury, and is limiting your reproduction pool. And just add to that the rifles and the similarity with just spraying your seed everywhere. That's why I wanted AK-15, not a simple just one kid or two. You know, I want to survive. So this is me going all Freudian and all species survival. So this was one of the answers that I looked up. And Jung in 1950s, when this came first, was reported as a medical care scientifically, said that he's not against what happens between doctor and patient. This is their relationship, but talking about it in society brings all this angst. So he's the first one who pointed to this very real, I have to give it to Freud, the very real anxiety that people have about organization level transphobia. There was a dissertation thesis last year, actually, that tracked the origins of all these ideologies that circulate. This PhD student, what they did, they tracked them to basically 6 organizations: Heritage Family Foundation, Family Policy Alliance, all these. So with software, you're able to track the language and figure out these 6. So this was from Harvard Business Review, was first published, and now she put together all this in her dissertation. And there are some very clear messages that are transmitted, and blatant lies, like children are innocent. So like the 15-year-old who's my daughter's colleague, who's now pregnant, yeah, sure, she's innocent. She will have to have a very hard life. She's dropping out of school now because the guy just took off, you know. The guy who has the truck with a Trump flag on it. So there are these kind of blatant lies that they're telling kids. We need to protect them. We need to, children don't know what they're doing. Yeah, and this 18-year-old who's a representative, they would know, right? So at 17 you don't know, but 18 you can bring laws, bring bills for others. A 21-year-old can cause so much damage already. So these contradictions are flagrant. And then parental right is also a matter of protection, of course, but control. You see all these bills with this language that you have to direct healthcare, education, medical care, mental health care. This is control, parental control. I'm the king of the hill and I can just kill everybody. And when I came with the stats of child abuse in North Dakota, like 5 fatalities in 1 year, and all these kids were under 3, 5 of them, and there were 1,800 reported in 1 year. These are what's reported. So more than, by the way, more than the trans people left in North Dakota, by the way, just to give you size.
Yeah, I'm gonna just turn it to the audience. What struck me is that this is, their freedom is freedom from discomfort. We all have to guard against that. Because everyone makes people in these books, these people make people uncomfortable. Anybody have a question?
I moved back here in 2004 from Washington State, and I lived here until I was 17 years old in 1970, and then I went to Washington State. And so I came back, and the state had gone from some level of civility into this kind of incredible, almost fascist movement of we are the controlling party of North Dakota, and we will dictate everything that happens in North Dakota. And okay, this is something that I kind of know I've been preaching to the choir about, but I have a firm conviction that North Dakota, of all states, is a microcosm for fascism, because the state of North Dakota, the people of North Dakota have been brainwashed since the 70s or the 80s with first Rush Limbaugh, then Fox News, and yes, all these 21-year-olds, they're coming through the ranks but they're basically watching the same Fox News as their parents. And so therefore, they've got the same delusion of all black people are criminals, all gay people are going to make them gay, and all trans people are going to make them trans. And it's incredible how women in North Dakota are so brainwashed that they will not allow women to make healthcare decisions for themselves. I was so stunned by this in 2004, and now it's off the wall now. It's totally so. My feeling is I wrote a recent letter to the editor about the oligarchy, and when you look at Germany, the Weimar Republic in 1932, and what was going on there, and you look at the United States in 2023, you have to see some similarities. That the propaganda machine is working, people are brainwashed, people believe what they believe, and they don't have any ability to unbelieve what they believe. So therefore, you can't talk to them anymore. These legislators are not reasonable people. They're not. And
so when did you guys stop to be independent thinkers? When we came 10 years ago, this is what we knew, that you are fair, you respect others, you mind your business. When did this change? Was it here all along and we didn't see it?
Just really quick, because I've been thinking about that for a long time, as we all have. I would say it was very gradual over 30, 40 years. And I would also say it's national imposition, what he said. It's a lack, it also is the disintegration of, in this state, of any opposition that's organized. So that's one of the positives that's coming out of this session, is I think there's some more organization going on.
Yeah.
At the beginning. And so there used to be, what made it reasonable back then was there was two different sides that actually were both powerful, and that's gone. So there isn't anything in their way. I think that's part of it.
One of the tactics that our neighboring state has taken is to actually go and try to pass some very positive laws. And this has always been kind of in my mind, that since North Dakota has a very open way of introducing bills, why do you think that no one has taken the advantage of submitting a very positive bill in any of these areas in order to bring the public dialogue, out? Because so much of what the work has been done is a defensive posture in our approach to these bills rather than an offensive.
I really like that. I think we should do much, much more of that, and more pointed and more backed up with public backing. But here's what happens, because there have been bills like that. A school lunch bill, free lunches and breakfast for every public school kid. There's a whole bunch of bills in this session that would fall in that category. They were sponsored by Democratic NPL legislators. The school lunch bill is a perfect example. They killed that bill. And now they attached it to another bill that is sponsored by a Republican, and that bill will pass. So it is a way, that actually is working, because a bill is going to get passed. But any Democratic NPLer who puts a bill in and actually gets it passed, that's a miracle. They have a policy not to pass bills by the opposition party. So it's a good idea. Let's get those bills out there. But understand that bill will not pass until a Republican sponsors it. It just won't happen.
And I would agree. And I would just quick say too, for one of the library bills, I was able to connect with a moderate Republican, and who is anti-censorship, and a small group of us librarians drafted an amended bill and shared it with this person, and they were willing to send it to legislative management to check for legalities. Legislative management wrote it in that Christmas tree.
Yeah.
However, that it's really weird the way they have it. You have to have it on in the bill, and somehow that made it to the committee, and the person who started all this in the first place said, I have an amendment, and it was like, hey, that's what we wrote. Thank you. So in that case it worked. It's still censorship, but it's not as crappy as the first one, so we're just trying to take our wins where we can. But I feel like, yes, right now the way to go is to find moderate Republicans who are willing to work with citizens. And if citizens are willing to draft language for bills that they feel are important, those legislators might be willing to work with us and bring it forward as their own bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was that moderate Republican?
Senator Cleary.
Okay, I just was wondering if there was one, and I was surprised.
I think there are many. It's just a matter of connecting with them and asking for their help, and yeah, it's a work in progress.
We will extinguish our chalice with these words: "Be the blessing you already are," by John Gibb Millspot and Sarah Gibb Millspot. Breathe in, breathe out. This breath we share with all that breathes. Feel the love of the universe flowing through this community, into you, into the universe again. Let the love of all the universe, your love, flow outward to its height, its depth, its broad extent. You are more than you know, and more beloved than you know. Take up what power is yours to create safe haven, to make of earth a heaven. Give hope to those you encounter, that they may know safety from inner and outer harm. Be happy and at peace, healthy and strong, caring and joyful. Be the blessing you already are. That is enough. Blessed be.
And the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Another day goes by and still the children cry for the love in your heart. Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, for the love in your heart. And the world will be a better